Hello and welcome to Phone Arena's in-depth video review of the Samsung Behold 2, which is going to be available for T-Mobile. It is T-Mobile's first Samsung-powered Android handset, which kind of integrates a lot of new features, specifically the TouchWiz interface that Samsung's been known to use on its feature phones. So we'll see if it has enough personalization to really make it stand out from the current crop. There's nothing really eye-catching or innovative about the Behold 2's design. It's a typical slate form factor that most touchscreen phones use. It's fairly well sized in the hand. It's not too large or too narrow. It's just a perfectly sized phone. The materials that they use is this glossy plastic material both on the sides and also on the back. It gives a really nice touch to it, but it does attract a lot of fingerprints and smudges. And of course, you can see on the back they have this map of the world design, which doesn't really add too much of appeal to the phone. As we said, with the plastic materials, it does make the phone pretty lightweight. It's not that heavy in the hand and fits snug into your pockets without any problems. Now, one of the biggest features about the Behold 2 is its stunning 3.2-inch AMOLED display, which continues Samsung's trend of having high-quality screens on their devices, just like we've seen on the Samsung Rogue and even the Samsung Impression. For the most part, colors are rich, they have deep, vibrant tones, and in darkness, the phone really radiates. Unfortunately, though, if you have it in direct sunlight, you definitely lose a lot of clarity on screen. Right below the screen is, of course, the hardware buttons. There's actually a lot. Circular directional pad. They have really good tactile feel, and it's more of a plastic milled aluminum look to it. For the most part, as we said, it's very tactile, very easy to press. On the left-hand side, you have your volume rocker, and on the right side, you have your lock-unlock button, which is flush to the surface, and of course your shutter key, which has two-level press. And on the top, you have your luckily standard 3.5mm headset jack, and of course your micro USB port for charging and connecting to the PC. On the back, you have your 5-megapixel camera with LED flash, and on the right side, you have your speakerphone. When you remove the back cover, it will give you access to the battery, of course, the SIM card slot, and the micro SD card slot. We just would have preferred a slot loading mechanism as opposed to this one to make it really easy to insert the card. Samsung comes in with a different approach to the usual user interface on Android. It comes packed with version 1.5 of Android and integrates their TouchWiz interface, which is generally reserved for their feature phones. It has its own appeal to it, different look, but at the most part, at its core, it's the same Android we've seen before. Now here we have the 3 home screens, which you can move by moving your finger left to right or right to left. It has this almost 3D cube look to it, which is a little bit choppy when you're moving around. The one complaint we had about it is that the location of the menu button here. Sometimes when you're swiping left to right, you accidentally press that button instead of moving between the home screens. For the most part, the software and device, for sometimes it will run pretty smooth, and other times, even when you have all the applications closed down, it will run extremely slow or laggy, as if though it's having a hard time catching up. And that's the biggest complaint that we have with the Behold 2, just the lack of speed overall with the device. There's just an abundant amount of ways you could actually launch applications on the Behold 2. On top of adding shortcuts on screen, you could use the full menu listing to run your apps. You could even use the quick list function, which gives it a very TouchWiz look to it. Unfortunately, you can't modify these icons. They're just the way they are. And lastly, the neatest thing about the device is, of course, its 3D navigation cube here, which really has a really nice eye candy look to it because it runs really smooth, very intuitive, and has a really nice, different approach to navigating through your media files on the device. There's 6 different things you can launch with it. You could play music, you could launch your videos, if you recorded photos, the Amazon MP3 store, YouTube, and of course any open browsers on the device. What happens when you click each one, it gives you almost this like cover flow look to it, so you could browse through all your media. As we said, it's pretty smooth and intuitive, so even if you go to YouTube, for example here, you could actually navigate through all the recent videos you've seen or any popular ones. Like we said, it almost has like this cover flow look to it. It runs really smooth and we definitely like it. Unfortunately though, it kind of loses its appeal after time and just find it to be a novelty thing. We just prefer actually navigating through the regular menu list. You're going to need a lot of patience when you're trying to send a message with the on-screen QWERTY keyboards on the Behold 2. Just like the software we said earlier, it's a little bit laggy. Pretty slow experience just trying to type up something. At first you'll have T9 on, but if you turn off T9, it's a little bit more responsive. But if you start typing really quick, the phone just has a hard time catching up, and you find yourself making a lot of mistakes with it. Even when you switch it over to the landscape QWERTY keyboard, which definitely has a lot more room, but still the experience is the same. It just takes a little bit of time for the phone to recognize what you're typing, and when you start trying to speed type, it just has a difficult time catching up. The music player also gets a slightly revamped look to it. At first, when you play something, it's going to give you your album cover, the title, the track title, and of course the artist. You have your associated buttons to fast forward, reverse track, or even pause. When you tilt it to landscape, it gives you almost this different browsing experience, which has a really good smooth flow to it when you're moving between album covers. It's a neat approach, and we definitely like it just because it's a little bit different from what we've seen previously. Thanks to its brilliant-looking AMOLED screen, viewing videos on the Behold 2 is just a sight to look at. Colors are really sharp, they have great tones to it, and also they run pretty smooth. There wasn't any instance when we ran this music video, either in portrait or even in landscape mode, that it ran perfectly fine. It's very suitable, especially with the screen size it has. We managed to get a decent, tolerable web browsing experience out of the Behold 2. Unfortunately, though, when we were on 3G speeds, we did notice that it took roughly a minute and a half to load up complex websites like ours. When we jumped on Wi-Fi, we noticed that it took a little bit longer than other phones as well. But once it's fully loaded, you could scroll. Unfortunately, the way to zoom in, you had to press the associated buttons. But you do get the zoomed-in view first. If you press the bottom right button here, it'll give you a page overview of the site, and you can move around the window to a specified portion. For the most part, it's pretty intuitive and it's pretty responsive. When you let go, it actually zooms into that portion. It's a nice touch, and as you said, it's pretty decent browsing experience. The camera application is similar to other feature phones that are powered with TouchWiz. There's a lot of different options and even modes and effects that you can utilize to make the shot come out really well. Now, as far as picture quality goes, it was pretty decent. Pretty detailed. Colors look pretty good. Even in the dark, when using the LED flash, it does a pretty good job of illuminating the shot. So we had a pretty good experience with it, and we're overall satisfied with it. We're really disappointed with the video capturing capability of the Behold 2. Unfortunately, when we did take videos with the camera, it didn't have any really good detail to it, and on top of that, it didn't focus that well when you move in closer to shots. There's also an occasional lag to it, which didn't really enhance the experience, so it's probably best used for MMS. Using the handset to make phone calls, we did notice a slight background noise on our end that really dampened the overall experience. Fortunately, though, our voices on both ends did sound distinct and clear. When we switched over to using the speakerphone, we did notice that it didn't have that much power to it, which made it really difficult to actually listen to our callers. And when on our callers' end, they did state that they were able to hear us without any problems. As far as battery life is concerned, on the Behold 2, we managed to get a solid 1 day's use out of it, which is pretty average nowadays when you consider data-intensive applications that are being run on the phone. So it'll give you a really good day's use, which is, again, pretty average. As far as connectivity, it managed to get pretty solid signals and bars, so we didn't have any issues as far as losing signal strength or even drop calls. There's a lot of really neat things with the Samsung Behold 2. For example, the beautiful and gorgeous AMOLED display. You have also TouchWiz integrated to it, and of course the 3D navigational cube to actually access your media files. For the 3D cube, it's a great thing at first, but over time it just loses its appeal and becomes more of a novelty than anything else. Finally, though, the overall sluggish performance on the phone really dampens the experience. We just wish that it was a little bit more speedy, just like the Motorola Droid. If it managed to become more usable in that arena, we definitely would have preferred this device. But unfortunately, there are other devices that make the experience of Android a little bit better.